Why not come to bright market with bright silver and gold, where the riches of ages are bartered and sold? Why not come to bright market and lay down bright silvers, to buy what is bought with the blood of brave delvers? If you seek the bright market, just look for the dome, shining and brazen, seen wherever you roam. Those who go to bright market must be wary and wise. Take care that their buys are not some merchant's sweet lies. Those who leave the bright market, be they poorer and sad, be they richer and glad, ought just to be pleased they survived it. Old bloody tusks! Audley, that man is singing.
I can see that. Just leave the degenerate alone.
Singing in public. Disgusting. I shan't stand for it.
Leave it alone, Tarush dear. If someone is pissing in the street, it certainly doesn't do anyone any good to stomp in it. All you shall do is splash everyone and get your boots filthy.
I will not. Someone here must take a stand for decency.
Then you shall stand alone. I'll see you at home.
I say, you there, the one singing in the street, stop that this instant.
Beg your pardon, mate, but if you wait just a bit, I'll start again from the top for just a little donation, alright?
How dare you! Befouling music with your greed, stained song with your slobbering tongue and spittlesome lips.
Look, mate, not many can afford a conductor, but everyone deserves a bit of music, you know?
What utter rot and filth, you say? May you feel Gruvald's wrathful fists.
Alright, I'll move on. But look, there's something you need to hear more than any other.
I cannot imagine you have anything to say that I want to hear.
Luminarchy in the League.
Ben, Madame travaille, Monsieur bavarde.
Welcome to Mythtakes Happen. This is season 1 of a world-building podcast where two good friends talk about the partitioned city of Helluva, a living, breathing world for you to game in, live in, and explore. I'm Chris, a Victorian teacher and writer.
He, of course, means from the state of Victoria, not from the Victorian era. Hi, I'm Aaron, a professional game master from South Australia.
We will begin with Ready, Setting, Go, where we discuss significant aspects of the setting, followed by Fable Fodder, where each host has developed setting and story aspects of a fantasy world without the interference or knowledge of the other host.
After, we take a short break, imperceptible to you, the listener, through the magic of technology, and return with World War words, weaving together connections, linking our two halves together, and perhaps altering some fundamental aspect of one another's contributions.
No tears, my friend. We will ruin this world together. At the end, we move to jumping to conclusions, where we discuss the whys and hows of our whats.
Look in the episode description for follow-up materials, trigger warnings, and anything else that might matter. Supplementary aids will be linked here, including summaries of our work so far, alternate takes, and GM tips, all eventually culminating in a deliciously attractive PDF at the end of the season's run.
For a few episodes, you may hear us referring to the podcast using a different name, but this is a false memory implanted in your brain by the podcast industry. Pay it no heed. Before we begin, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of this great land. I am recording on the land of the Kulin Nation, home to the Boonwurrung people.
And I'm recording this on the land of the indigenous Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains.
And with that, we'll get started. Actually, I read it on Reddit. Reddit on Reddit? Is that where Reddit comes from?
I'm going to take a wild guess as to yes.
Oh my god, that's incredible. I actually never knew that. I thought it has something to do with the word red.
Oh,
like red, the colour red.
Yeah, and potentially some redemption, maybe, if you were dead.
Ooh. Yeah, maybe.
So let's start our episode 4 with Ready, Setting, Go, where we have a bit of a chat about where we're up to, and maybe some ideas about where we've been and where we're going.
That sounds fantastic to me. I must say I have not forgotten every single thing that happened over the past 3 episodes.
Just most of it?
Just most of it, yeah. But that doesn't speak to the quality of the art we are creating together, of course. That's just me. Right. Dementia.
That's I believe that was your drag name, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good pull. I feel like this could expand our demographic even further.
If I remember correctly, it's actually the name of the woman that appears at the end of... Is it the second Addams Family film?
Oh my god. All of the Addams Family films kind of like blend together for me.
Oh,
I like
really?
them all. Yeah, I like them all. I don't remember which one is the one where Uncle Fester loses his memory.
The first one.
Oh, and which is the one where Wednesday goes to camp?
Where Wednesday and Pugs go to camp, and the second one.
Oh, okay.
Where Fester gets married to a gold-digging Black Widow.
Oh, wait, that didn't happen in the first one?
No, in the first one, he thinks he's pretending to be Fester when he's actually Fester, and he's being controlled by a very German stereotype.
To be fair, though, that is an amazing idea for a movie that I don't think could get made right now.
I don't know. I think it could, but it would take the talents of people of the same caliber.
He thinks he's pretending to be Uncle Fester, but he is Uncle Fester pretending to be... It's so good. Oh my god. Should this turn into an Addams Family podcast?
I mean, it's not entirely different from what we're doing. I'm sorry, I'm going to wreck our recording for a second, because for some reason, naturally, I've got a frog in my throat. So
that's okay.
All right, cool. Let's try that again.
I'm going to leave that in just so that our listeners can have audio of you doing whatever the hell that was.
That's entirely fair, and I stand by it, or sit by it at this point.
Okay.
Ready, setting, go. The final frontier.
Let's have a quick talk, just sort of catch up on what we have. Where are we? Would you like to start? I think of the two of us, you have the better memory.
When it comes to settings, certainly. Actually, useful facts, less so.
I only remember when people owe me money.
That's not an unuseful skill.
I guess it's not an unuseful skill, no.
So, last episode, we discussed a little bit about the ranks within the Unfettered League, and I introduced you to one of the leaders of their military, the Stratomarch Safei Miracore, Queen of the Golden River.
The Stratomarch. Yeah.
And then...
I think that was the episode where I established my depressed Polish orcs.
That's right.
And you established your less depressed singing orcs.
Yes, that's right. I was going to leave that to the end, but let's talk about it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we had these, a proper, very different ideas about one thing in the same episode, purely by chance, I assure our listeners.
But it flowed together quite well, I think, just the idea that if we are talking about orcs as a created species, then it's not outside the realms of possibility that there would be different types, but also cultures are different.
Exactly.
Like real cultures are different, yeah.
It gave us a real opportunity to explore the way that different peoples in different settings, surrounded by different groups of other people, become and form very different cultural paradigms, I suppose.
I think we had a comparison, like my own culture and the cultures that surround my country. Polish people are depressed and angry, whereas Serbs, for example, are angry and depressed, which is totally different.
Completely.
Yeah.
Whereas the Australians were known for being laid back, generally because we haven't really been terribly invaded, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did the invasion first. Then
that's right, but it was a very successful one. So
it really was, sadly. And then you also finished us off with a fun little piece about some slime amulets.
Oh, yes, the slime amulets. I remember the slime amulets. I'm so excited about the slime amulets. They're probably my favourite part of the setting at the moment. Because I'd like one.
Fair, being able to survive toxic environments is fun, and just generally being moist is entertaining.
I enjoy being moist. I enjoy being moist in places where it is appropriate to be moist.
Fair. And in Australian heat, that's all too often, sadly.
Yeah, I know. We've had
Crucially,
some nice
I think
weather.
One thing we should mention before we go too far is that back in episode 2, you also laid out some geography outside of Heliacon.
I did. I believe I was talking about the different countries, the different nations that are on our continent. Our continent we've called Delmarin.
It is indeed called Delmarin.
Yeah. So we talked about the Kingdom of Cordonia, which is like a dwarf kingdom. Or I recall your addition to that, which was a nascent god that is their mountain that they live in.
Mountain range, and
Mountain range, yeah.
connected them with the brass builders that you turned my brazen dome.
Ah, that's right, yeah. It's all coming together.
It is. Perhaps rather than going through the each individually, we can tell our listeners that that they should now have a map in the downloadable materials. It'll be very basic.
The map we're hoping will grow as the show grows, and every episode we will add more and more bits to it. The way I envision it is that episode 1 will have a map version 1, episode 2 will have a map version 2, and at the end of it we'll have a very nice looking map, not a rough map that we are working of, but like quite a nice one. Yeah. That's the hope.
That is indeed the hope. Well, I think that sets us up for where we've been.
But where are we going, Aaron?
Now, that is the province of Fable Fodder, isn't it?
That's the province of Fable Fodder. Are we ready to fodder some fables?
I'm ready to harvest some of this fodder and then toss it to the stables of people.
What is fodder? Isn't it just food? Isn't fodder food for animal?
Yes, specifically for various agricultural animals, and I believe mostly it's like hay and various bits and pieces, but I am about as unfarmy as a human can get and still eat food.
Did you say hay?
I did.
Hey. Time for another conversation about Fat Albert.
Oh, I thought you were doing Hey It's Saturday.
Oh, really?
Which is a very Australian thing. In fact, did you even... Yeah, you would have been here while Hey was on.
Yeah, it had Molly Meldrum on it.
Yes.
Yeah, and some other guys in a puppet.
Yeah.
A chicken of some kind?
There was a lot of chickens involved. There was a rotating like Wheel of Fortune thing with chickens on it, I seem to recall. It was painfully Australian.
They did do blackface, though, when they tried to... But I think that was recently, wasn't it? They tried to resurrect it, and they resurrected it, and it was, hey guys, you know what was funny back in the 1980s? Blackface. And then turned out, no one agreed.
No, it was. It's like it wouldn't have been appropriate back then either. It's a good several decades out of date.
Yeah, I wonder how that works in our setting. It's probably not a thing.
Like elf ears or something. Or
like greyface, like people wanting to like appropriate the culture of goblins and orcs.
To be fair, goblins are awesome.
Goblins are awesome, yeah. That's true. I'd like to be a goblin. These are the voyages of the starship Fable Fodder. Anyway, who will begin this one?
That is a good question, as because I'm desperately trying to remember who went first last time.
If only there was some way of verifying that. I'm happy for you to go first, to be honest.
All right. Yes, let's do it that way then.
Anyway, I'm turning off my mic now, or my Michael, as he likes to be called.
Sure, love it. For our first Fable Fodder in episode 4, we have The Lodge of Snakes. Now, if that sounds vaguely familiar, I've hinted at it a handful of times with the Bright Market and briefly when we're talking about how the Serpentine Guard handles the people trying to smuggle and cross between the two halves of Heliacon through the shallows of the Deep Vaults. But I'm going to talk about them a bit more, in a little bit more depth here. So as the truce created by the Bloody Avenues Agreement grew longer and increasingly stable, the interbellum guard of the Serpentine Wall began to run into a growing problem. In truth, guarding the walls and the neutral zone between them did not take too many mercenaries, and it was largely boring and safe work. This caused many of the serpents to grow complacent, and worse, bored. Further, there was still plenty of mercenary work required in and around Heliacon, but by the terms of the Bloody Avenues Agreement, the serpents were very limited in their ability to undertake it. Thus, the first major addendum to the agreement was proposed by Stola Tamda herself, and shortly ratified by both the Unfettered League and the Great Consociate, to allow for each side to cede a building and declare it to be a neutral zone in the care of the Serpentine Guard underneath the agreement. In these various places, soon called lodges, an experienced member of the Serpentine Guard would act as a guildmaster to mercenaries, acting under the authority of the serpents, but not actually part of the organisation. This sophistry allows their presence within the bounds of the city, but provides them with the freedom to take normal mercenary work as or from private individuals. Under no circumstances are either governments allowed to make use of these mercenaries. These adventuring mercenaries, who are not quite serpents, became known colloquially as snakes. As you might imagine, a great many of those who delve into the deep vaults are snakes, either hired to protect the delvers or treasure seekers themselves. And of course, there are a number of these lodges in the shallows to protect the boundaries down there.
That sounds very good. I like this expansion.
When I say, seed a building, I mean they can seed a building, but they have seeded multiple buildings, so there are multiple lodges of snakes throughout Heliacon.
I would assume that over time this has grown somewhat out of necessity and also because they can?
Yes. Remembering, of course, that the original point of the Serpentine Guard was to keep mercenaries in and around Heliacon ready to go back to war when it's necessary, but not to leave them at their untrained and bored and, all that jazz.
You wouldn't want to leave them idle because then you have a second front, essentially, in your war.
Precisely. So yes, that's my first little piece of fodder. Do you have something for me?
I love this first piece of fodder. I do actually have something for you. I'm going to tell you about the Stygiad Council.
Oh.
The Stygiad Council is the secretive spy organization of the Great Consociate Empire. Their claimed history is long and stretches back to the Concordate itself, when the children of the Stygiad, as they called themselves back then, were a mystery cult concerned with the hoarding of ancient knowledge. It is hypothesized that they worshipped a goddess credited with gifting mankind the secrets of fire and sorcery, but no further information has survived to the modern age. In the current era, they still function more or less like a religious organization of the classical period, slowly inducting adherents into ever more secretive circles of knowledge. They pray at the altars of the faceless Stygiad, and they leave secrets as offerings to the tongueless masters, the inner circle of the fellowship. At the same time, the Stygiad Council is beholden to the split crown of the twin monarchs, acting as information gatherers and spies throughout the continent of Delmarin and beyond. Indeed, it is said, only half-jokingly, that if the matriarch of the chasm city-states at the bottom of the world farts in the morning, then by noon the Konarchs will know its sound and scent, and by the ending of the day an artist would be able to create an accurate portrayal of its effects upon a canvas simply from the description of the Stygiads. Though not as interested in the ways that foreign monarchs pass wind as the common folk, it is true that the information networks cultivated by the Stygiad Council are both deep and widespread. As for the councillors themselves, there is not one type of person who can be said to embody the organization. They can be anyone from any walk of life. Members of this spy network have been kings, beggars, dignitaries, chefs, carpenters, wanted criminals, priests, and madmen. This fact is well known to the population, and in certain circles it has led to an extreme paranoia in the city of Heliacon specifically. The representatives of the Unfettered League, who rule the northern part of the city, hold frequent and public purges, followed by quick trials and executions, excising the anti-luminarchist and counter-revolutionary elements from society, often labelling such unfortunates as Stygiad collaborators, council dogs, and consociate spies. Whether few or many of those charged and executed actually were members of the Stygiad Council is up for debate, and it has been pointed out that if such accusations were true in every case, then the Unfettered League's half of Heliacon must be absolutely swarming with spies, which is quite possible.
It is that thing, isn't it? It's entirely possible that's true. On the other hand, it's not really important whether it is or not, because the Unfettered League still get their publicity.
That's right. And just for the final bit of this bit is the head of this spy network, first among the tongueless masters, is supposedly a tiefling woman named Darvani Yavshri. But Darvani has always denounced such rumours. She is a regional advisor to the Great Consociate Empire's top generals and claims she counsels them on geography, culture, and logistics. Nevertheless, in the popular view of the public, she is known as the Spy Master General, the tongueless tiefling, and the prime Stygiad. Several attempts on her life in the last decade have all failed, something she attributes to good fortune as a result of honouring the right gods. That's it for this part.
I got to tell you, my immediate thought is if there is a well-known leader of a super secretive mystery organization of spies, that's almost certainly not the real leader. But that's
Absolutely.
something to consider later.
Indeed. Who is the real puppet master?
I do wonder. Well, we can have a bit of a chat about that later. I have a bit of a lengthy one here.
I like that. I like lengthy ones.
Going to talk about. Well, I imagine you do. I'm going to talk about the secrets of magic.
The secrets of magic. Thank you.
You mentioned quite accurately in our first episode that you wanted to seize upon what magic was about, because I am all about that magic.
You are all about that magic.
And our system and what you started with and what I challenged you on has been sitting with me for this whole time, and it continues to percolate. So I'm going to talk a little bit about secrets and origins. Though the origins of magic are long lost to the civilizations of Delmarin, it is generally accepted that savage blood magic was the first form of magic discovered and practiced. They are quite correct, as the barrier between the world and the realm of magic can be as thin as a person's skin. This is the first secret of magic, that whilst many will never see a spell, meet a magic user, or touch something enchanted, magic is but a dagger stroke away. The second secret is that while there are now a vast number of magical praxes and countless ones forgotten by history, they all share a fundamental structure. To cast a spell of any sort, one only needs access to raw magic, a strong desire or intention, and a passion or drive for that intention. One might reasonably ask, then why all the strange words and gestures? Why the sigils and runes, tattoos and scars, music, staves, wands, and so on and so forth? What role does such a bewildering complexity serve if magic is fundamentally so simple? Because simple is not remotely the same as easy. The trouble lies in how people think. Folk think in words, and words are inherently fluid and layered in meaning. Their very impreciseness and imperfection is what gives rise to everything from the complexity and meaning of poetry and prose to the humour in puns and witticisms. And therein lies the problem, when one is trying to make one's passionate intention a clear channel through which the magic will flow, because the way the mind of all sapient creatures works is to be simultaneously aware of double meanings and possible homophones and similar vagaries of language. This is how those previously unmentioned puns in poetry can work. But it is a terrible danger to an unwary spellcaster, for all it takes is a moment's distraction, or even an unconscious desire to make a magical cast go awry. Indeed, students at the Wraithworks Disciplinary in the Great Consociate's capital are told a tale passed down through the millennia about a young apprentice to an ancient blood mage, shunned by their people, as they often are, and not yet respected and feared. The young apprentice wished for their people to know what they were truly like on the inside, feel the apprentice's zeal and strength of will. But the desire was unclear, and so, surrounded by a dozen dead men and women, the channel the magic burned through was forked by double meanings and uncertainty, and the caster successfully broadcast their emotions as they wished, but also turned themselves inside out. The bored and jaded students would then be led into a sealed room deep in the bowels of the Wraithworks Disciplinary, where they are assailed by a terrible agony and keening madness broadcast by the still living mound of flesh and bone and brain.
That's a good way to teach kids a lesson.
Yes, certainly one to drive it home and hard. So every magical tradition and practice is designed to allow a spellcaster to have a method to reduce the risks and dangers of magic, and I'm going to discuss a few of those in the next section. But before I do, the last difficulty that users of magic have is that channeling magic into reality is always exhausting, in the same way that extended periods of even physically unchallenging art forms still exhaust the mind. As a magic user grows in skill through practice, they're able to act as a channel with greater ease, allowing them to summon more magic at once, or smaller amounts for longer.
That's very cool. I really like that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's a really good expansion and extrapolation of our magic system.
And it's given me a fundamental sort of foundation that I want to stand on. I've yet to do anything with for those listening to this podcast, I mentioned in earlier episodes that I'll be making some classes for our symphomortologists and Brachenbards. I've yet to do much with that because I want to have a firm foundation of what magic is really like in our system so that the system reflects the setting.
It's really good to have a sort of, even more than a skeleton in place, a little bit of skin on top of that, just so that we have more of a guide to go along.
It's one of those interesting challenges that is much easier and indeed more rewarding to be creative within a box than entirely unlimited.
Correct. That's why I tried to put magic inside a big box.
Yep, succeeded, I think. We're
Hooray!
Just filling it in a bit more. All right.
Yeah.
Well, what's your next piece of fodder, my friend?
Mine is not a very consequential one, this one. This is another bit of culture. I hope you like this one. I don't know whether you will. Well, let's see.
All right.
Aaron, my good friend, let me tell you about the delicious Heliadog. One of the most remarkable cultural contributions to come out of the city of Heliacon is the Heliadog. It's delicious. It's semi-nutritious. It's not fictitious. Simply put, it is a peasant staple which has gained popularity across the world. It is made of one slice of elven salted long bread, wrapped tightly around a sausage and dressed in a thick beefy gravy. Heliadogs were popular just in the city before the war, which ended in its partition, but at the time they were called Heliacon sausage wraps. The name change occurred over the years of the conflict when more palatable meats were difficult to acquire, and food shortages meant that one could find almost anything inside their wrap. The rumour that sausages had to be made of stray dogs became prevalent, and the Heliadog was born. After the war ended, the idea of the Heliadog became spread by soldiers returning to their home cities once it became clear the truce would hold. Now, many years later, the Heliadog is popular in the north and south, both sides claiming to be the pioneers of their particular styles of this food. In the south, the Heliadog is often accompanied by fried onions and carrots, while the north has done away with the gravy altogether and is famous for a mild chili and onion relish. Often, the salted long bread here is baked with various seeds, giving it a distinctly provincial flavour. In the south, beef and pork are the main ingredients for Heliadog sausages, whereas the northern partition's street dog slingers favour the avian flesh of turkeys and sewer eagles, the latter a clever solution to frequent infestations. The people of the Great Consociate Empire consider the Heliadog a great triumph of patriotic ingenuity in the face of adversity, with many attributing the level-headed decision-making which led to the Bloody Avenues Agreement a direct result of easy access to Heliadogs. The Unfettered League see the Heliadog as a revolutionary meal for the modern age, able to feed a citizen in a new fast-paced world. In the lands claimed by the League, a plethora of flavours and styles has arisen, each accentuating some aspect of the area which transformed it. That's it.
I love it. It's exactly the sort of level of detail that makes a world feel real, and it's funny as hell.
Yeah, my favourite part of this is the sewer eagles.
Is it the sewer? It was definitely the sewer eagles. We're definitely going to have to make a stat block for sewer eagles, aren't we?
That's definitely a monster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be terrified to run into an eagle in the sewer.
I don't even know what that would look like. I mean, it can't be that big because.
But they make good eating.
But apparently, they make for good eating. I love it.
What's your next?
Yes,
you've got more parts. Yeah. Oh, thank goodness.
As I mentioned, I've got. I'm going to talk about some specific practices of magic.
Oh, I'm so happy that we're not ending on Heliadog.
I'm a little sad, honestly, because I still have a gigantic grin from that.
That's it. I might do some more food things in the future. I just thought it's an interesting thing. I really like these kind of little small details that don't seem that consequential, but then I think they provide a delicious beefy flavour.
I do. Well, I mean, it depends on where you're coming from. From the north, then it's as you say, more avian, white flesh.
Correct.
Anywho, let's talk about wraith quartz and wizardry, which is a delightful alliteration in text only.
Correct.
We've already discussed some practices of magic, both of a bardic sort. the symphomortologists and the Brackenbards. And I want to quickly discuss how they fit into this scheme before introducing some wizard practices. Well, wizard practice. I have limited myself to just one, as they were starting to run on a little bit, so I will perhaps come back to that, or we can talk about more in World War Words, or in later episodes. Symphomortology. The surgery that etches the runes upon their fingers gives the conductor a permanent, though small, trickle of magic at all times. Insufficient for any of their rare but more dramatic spells, but more than enough to conjure the music of the dead, and it is that magic-born music that allows a skilled symphomortologist to summon more magic, as an expression of any art form is a way to pierce the membrane between the real and the magical. To ensure that the intended magic occurs, conductors subsume personal desires utterly into the music that they play. This limits how much they can direct their spells, although avoiding most of the effects simply requires one to deafen oneself whilst the ghostly music plays. Those conductors that commonly use their magic around allies, or for them, can define a number of people as their choir through a short ritual explained in further symphomortology subclass sections that will be available online. Brackenbards. Those who successfully complete the onerous 7-year training and become a Brackenbard take a very rare approach to magic. Rather than clarifying their intentions near perfectly like the wizards, or submerging their desires into music or similar, the Brackenbards make every utterance magical and protect themselves by strictly limiting the amount of magic they can call upon. Whilst the vagaries of thought and language cause their magic to go awry, a non-small amount compared to others, it can only do so in small and not directly lethal ways. Usually, it's still magic, it's wildly dangerous. As the Brackenbard grows more experienced, they naturally grow their connection to magic, and thus increase their ability, but at the risk of greater consequences. I would then like to talk about our first form of wizard.
Our first form of wizard. Fascinating. I'm ready for it right now. Give it to me. Give me the wizard.
They are called, well, rather, the language in practice is called Vaesta.
Vaesta.
Yeah, Vaesta, that's right, yes.
Okay.
Vaesta, for those listening, like you.
Correct.
Old when the Concordate ruled Delmarin and beyond, Vaesta has long been thought of as the language of wizards. A constructed and artificial language believed to have drawn words and letter shapes from at least half a dozen languages. Vaesta is kept static and unchanging, for its main and primary purpose is clarity. Each word has a very specific and singular meaning with its own unique glyph, and are bound together with ironclad laws of grammar and syntax. Even though its varied root languages allow Vaesta practically every phoneme humanoid sapients can make, phoneme is sounds your mouth can make, it still wouldn't be enough, so a crucial aspect of speaking Vaesta aloud are the gestural elements of each word that trace out various shapes. Both these elements are required to make up a word, and as you can imagine, Vaesta's vocabulary is thus immense, and a full dictionary is over dozens of very substantial books. Study of the language is an ongoing and lifelong endeavour that practically nobody ever completes. In practice, Vaesta sentence spells are tremendously long, full of specifics and particulars. So much so that coming up with them on the fly is a slow and laborious process that rather makes the whole thing rather pointless, and it's very difficult to achieve even at the best of times, let alone during times of stress or in an emergency. So a Vaestari wizard will have a collection of pre-written sentence spells, and will take time to memorize them, and then practice reciting and gesturing the words at speed, substituting only a handful of words to fit the circumstance. A Vaestari still requires access to a source of magic, of course. Now, in the time of the Concordate, this would be a blood sacrifice of life, and the Vaestari would coat one or both hands with the blood and trace the somatic elements as they cast. In the modern era, most eschew this wasteful and slower method to use wraith quartz. The accepted standard practice is to have a charged piece of wraith quartz at the end of a wand, or more rarely a stave, rod, or simply hold a piece in the hand, and use that to make the gestures, leaving behind traceries of light. A small effort of will sacrifices a sliver of life to the crystal that allows access to the magic stored within. Those Vaestari unable to speak instead cast via the representational glyphs that the language is written in, tracing the wraith quartz in the air or on paper to write the sentence spell out.
I really, really like that. That's great. And Vestari. So a Vestari is a wizard.
A wizard specifically who uses the Vaesta language practice.
Who uses the Vaesta language practice. That's great. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I did have some ideas for sort of entirely glyph and rune magic. Sort of somewhere between the like the prayer strips of Japan and like dwarven glyphs.
Yes.
And I really would like to do something with thread, knot, and weaving magic, as it's one of our oldest forms of magic in the really real world.
Yes, and also mathematics.
Oh,
yeah, because I'm talking specifically about like the knot stuff, right? Like knots were used for calculations in early societies as well.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but how? I don't know. I would have to look it up.
Well, I might have to go on a bit of a research bender on this one, I think.
Yeah, do a bit of a research.
It's a 5-year mission to explore World War words.
Welcome to World War Words, where we are going to war with each other.
Absolutely. I have my words of weapons are ready, or ready, perhaps?
My words already are weapons. Well, I did add some things that I don't know if you're going to like, but we'll see. Maybe you will. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. We're friends, right?
I mean, currently.
At the end of this podcast, who knows? Which one of us should go first? I think you should go first.
Well, I went first with the fodder, so I should continue to go first, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll be honest with you, I struggled to think of something to do with your Heliadog, because if... Not because there's nothing to do, but because it is sheer perfection. That's what the problem was. Like, anything I changed would be to turn it away from its pristine state of marvelousness.
True. It's delicious.
It's delicious. It's brilliant. It was exactly the sort of thing that I want in our world, and it made me laugh multiple times. I did.
Well, that's good. That's what I want.
Literally have to put my hands over my mouth while you were talking about it because I was giggling. So
I'm glad.
All I can do is add to it.
Let's do it.
So I just have a small piece that the Galengulp Goblin Clan, that you might remember from episode 1 and the Bright Market.
Yes.
They are the most successful street vendors of Heliadogs in all of northern Heliacon, although that market is a volatile and busy one.
Yes.
They have been able to keep the costs down, along with the quality of the meat, it must be admitted, as most of the vendors are happy even with a pittance of a profit, as that is often more than they've ever had. Many of the vendors are the goblin members of the clan, but just as many are adopted members of other species. And indeed, they are so ubiquitous that it's hard to go anywhere in North Heliacon without being able to hear the cry of, "Go on and gulp a Galengulp Heliadog. Go on, you know your order."
I'd do it.
Yeah,
I'd have one right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I had dinner not too long ago and I'm already hungry again. Now, the entrepreneurial leaders of the Galengulp clan want to find some way to expand their business into the south and great consociate half of Heliacon, and they're only looking for a steady and safe supply route and eager entrepreneurs on the other side.
That works. I like that. Yeah, that's a good addition.
Put a little story seed in there. I could run a light-hearted couple of episodes around some sort of Heliadog war.
The Great Heliadog War. Yes.
Smuggling northern Heliadogs into southern Heliacon.
Oh my god. That could get you killed.
Good.
I love that. That works really well.
What about you? You said you've got some things that you think I may not like.
Oh, I don't know. I've got 3 things. Only one of them is well-developed, so maybe I'll start with the most well-developed one.
Love it.
So I was quite taken by your idea of the Lodge of Snakes. I think it's a concept that makes sense in the setting. It's very gameable, which is great, and it immediately threw up some pictures in my mind, which is great. That's what we want.
Yes, it is.
So this is also more of an addition. Let me tell you about Sawtooth Lodge, also known as Meatgrinder Lodge.
Ooh, it's an ill-omened name.
The Snake Lodge on the side of the Unfettered League is colloquially known as Sawtooth Lodge, headed by the tyrannical Basil Sawtooth. Basil is old and Basil is cruel, and he runs the lodge like his small personal kingdom. He plays favourites, allowing certain delvers certain jobs at certain times. It is known that he has a stable of pet delvers he likes to keep outfitted with the best equipment, and who often get the most lucrative contracts. He expects great things from his delvers, and if they don't deliver, he has been known to throw huge tantrums, which have in the last decade led to the deaths of no fewer than 11 individuals. He has a temper. He's never happy. He takes bribes, and he is completely and utterly protected from consequences by Stola Tamda, though no one is quite sure why. In a way, many of the mercenary teams who come through Sawtooth Lodge become more powerful in a shorter amount of time than delvers who utilize the other lodges. They are richer, their equipment is better. No one has looked into it yet, but the mortality rates for novice teams are eye-wateringly high. Basil, if queried, would say that he is only encouraging the survival of the fittest. After all, one day this truce will break, and when it breaks, you'll have to pick sides again. And when you pick sides, he hopes you'll pick the right one. And it is true that the delicious mercenary cream rises to the top in this way, for Basil's methods are a study in cold-blooded brutality. The tantrums? They're for show. It's useful to have people think you're a psychotic, barely controlled fool, but Basil is a calculating man. His way of raising up some warbands and casting others to almost certain doom ensures that the strong really do survive, and when they survive, they are rewarded, and he makes sure they remember exactly who rewarded them. It is unclear whether Basil is making his own play at power here, or if he is merely a puppet for Stola, a means for her to achieve her dream of revenge. Basil Sawtooth is a human of great size. He stands at over 2 meters tall. He is broad-shouldered and uncommonly muscular for an older man. He must be in his 70s, and yet it appears that nothing is able to slow him down. In the past year, rumblings about rewriting the laws of neutrality with regard to the lodges, largely because of Basil's increasingly volatile behaviour, have been quelled by Stola and her allies, and it does appear his outbursts have subsided. For now.
Right, yeah, I gotta admit, when you were describing that, my first thought was, oh yeah, is he a pawn of Stola in her third-party, third-power play schemes?
Yeah, see, that's one of the thoughts that I had here, as well as, of course, when we're talking about characters here, I think it's useful to not define them like too much.
To
and
give
especially
a little bit of ambiguity so the GM has the power to make those decisions of which truths are true.
Correct. And I think it's a setting that is inspired by, those kinds of spy movies and things like that as well, I think really lends itself to a lot of NPCs that are a bit like that. And you can sort of dig further and see what the truth is.
Yeah, I mean, it could be just as true that perhaps he knows Stola's true identity and is blackmailing her in a rather dangerous way.
Absolutely.
His own personal fiefdom, as you described, his own.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I think that if we ever ran this as a setting, as a game, and we might in the future, that's something that we could present to the players and we could work that out within the game, within the reality of the game, which is different for everybody's game, obviously.
Exactly what in that instance of the setting, which is true.
Correct. How about you? What's your next one?
So the Stygiad Council, which was your other piece, I'll be honest with you, my first thought was, again, this is really solid stuff, and I wasn't initially sure what I was going to do with it, because I needed to do something. Because otherwise, what are we doing here? And then it struck me, what if the Stygiad Council are the true inheritors of an ancient religion and power? Because back in the days of the Concordate, the children of the Stygiad were known not as spies, but as seekers of lost lore, as they sought to revive their small but no less dead pantheon. Their gods died at the end of the epoch prior to the one of the Concordate arose in, but unlike most of those dead gods, they still seem to have a fragment of power left. Dead, but not gone.
Yes.
Only in the last centuries of the Concordate did they gain official favour and position with the rulers of that time, seeking their power to serve their selfish ends. Some of those rulers even knew that their epoch was ending and sought to survive in the same way, or ideally better, than the Stygiad had. Much of what the Great Consociate in the modern era knew of the children of Stygiad comes from this time. And then I thought, but what if the Stygiad Council are frauds? That these children of the Stygiad and their dead, but not gone gods, they ended along with the Concordate and the fall of Heliacon.
Oh, right.
more than a century after Grunwald ceded his power to the righteous Connarchs, that the two rulers of the time decided to create a single and controllable espionage organization after a collection of previous ones had attempted a coup. They took the rites and rituals of the children of the Stygiad and used them to give the new organization a false air of drama and importance, that mystery cult that you're talking about, twisting those old teachings to ensure loyalty to the righteous Connarchs and emphasize the knowledge gathering in terms of spycraft rather than the study of law. And it works. The common members of the council are true believers, but as one gains rank and progresses through the layers of the mystery within the cult, a councillor learns the truth, that they are just the elite of the Great Consociate, and that perpetuating the lie serves them as well as it has always served the leaders of the Stygian councils.
That's great. Yeah, okay.
There's more layers, though, because I just kept on going. But what if the Stygiad Council are the true inheritors of ancient religion and power? Because you really ought not to toy with the rites and magics of bygone ages without knowing if such things still hold power. And Davani Yavshri is truly the prime Stygiad, and truly the spy master for all of the Great Consociate. There are many who know this, and virtually none of them are convinced that she's anything more than a figurehead or a distraction from the true master. This elaborate double bluff is characteristic of Davani, and an outgrowth of her new, or perhaps kind of old, faith. Because when she became the prime Stygian and undertook to conduct rites for various lower members, she did them better and with more drama and passion than any before her had, and awoke something or some things. The dead but not gone Stygiad gods responded, and Davani felt them.
Okay, hold on. Aaron,
Yep.
Are we making up more gods? Are more gods waking up in our setting?
Nope,
I feel
because
like there's a
they're dead.
lot.
They're dead.
They're dead.
These are echoes or corpse gods.
Oh.
But there's still some power there, something that you can draw from. And when she feels their presence and their power and their divinity, she has once again regained her faith, or gained faith truly for the first time. Kind of hard to tell. And now she's sharing that true faith with certain others within the council, and she's demonstrating power and knowledge that has not been since the last age. So the mystery cult has a mystery cult within it.
I love that. Layers within layers within layers.
Yeah,
It could just keep going.
I did not intend that when I started writing, but it was just, I'm just going to ask this question. But then there's this question. I'm like,
Yeah.
we can just, yeah. So
It just makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
And one of our themes for the Helluva setting are spirals.
Spirals. Love it. Thank you. Yes, this is great.
Cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot.
I'm not entirely sure what their goals are. I feel like there's more there. What do you do with dead gods that aren't completely gone? I feel like there's more meat on that bone, but I didn't want to go too far with it just yet.
I know we did have one or two discussions in the past about how these gods could come to be gods and what those paths are and how that works, and perhaps there is a path to resurrecting them, or perhaps whatever is being resurrected might not even be those gods. Perhaps it would just be like the memory of those gods.
Is it resurrection? Is it recreation?
Is it recreation?
Yeah. Entirely new gods. So far, the only deities that we've truly defined are the previous goddess of battle and murder, and Grunwald is a brand new god within a variation of that.
Correct, yeah. He's supplanted her somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got this nascent god mountain range.
Yeah.
So now we've got...
Oh, and the ghoul god.
Oh, yes, and the ghoul god. That's... Yes, gosh, I only invented that, didn't I?
Oops. It's very good.
You made it a god, I suppose.
Yeah, I made it a god. You made it a ghoul.
Yeah.
A ghoul, a god.
Yeah.
God damn it. What starts with a G? Is there a food that starts with G? Grapefruit.
Grapefruit.
Ghouls, gods, grapefruits.
Love it. So, do you have some more grapefruits? I mean, more warring to do with my words?
I've got two more things that are additions, and I think these are... I don't know how you'll feel about them, so I want to know. So, for symphomortology, I had a little addition to the surgery. The surgery that the conductors get.
Mm-hmm.
The way I envision it is that this surgery is a very complicated and often botched procedure, and it isn't just about carving runes upon the fingers. The flesh must be peeled back, and the symbols must be carved into the bone of the conductor.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, small metal rods are attached to one or two of the finger bones. These vibrate at barely perceptible frequencies and allow the conductor potentially more finesse. The drawback is that it is such a complex process which can lead to nerve damage and either constant pain or a lack of feeling, both of which are less than ideal.
Well, sorry,
So-
I don't mean to interrupt you. When we first described symphomortology in that first World War word, I did describe them when I was talking about the surgery that they aren't able to use their fingers for fine manipulation. Like they can't play instruments and things after that. So
Right.
I love this idea.
When I mean finesse, I mean magical finesse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. We're on the
does
same page.
that
I love
still-
this idea of little tuning rods in their fingers.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically tuning rods, yeah. The best conductors, therefore, would also be the ones that are lucky enough to have had the surgery performed correctly and without complications.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that is still a developing art/science. There would potentially be, I was thinking about the idea of the Guild of Conductors taking children off the streets. I was thinking about these long apprenticeships at the end of which you could become crippled, essentially, right? Like just completely crippled, and all that you have learned might just not be useful to you.
Yeah, you've got the ability to play, so you've got the knowledge of how to play instruments, but like every other person who's had the surgery, you can't play them anymore, but nor do you have the ability to summon the ghostly music, sorry.
Correct.
Yeah, that would suck badly.
Yeah. That was one I thought you might not like.
No, I'm 100% on board with that. To me, that suggests, I mean, surely the symphomortologists would turn those people out. They've got no use for them anymore.
Would they turn them out? If you turn them out, then you're potentially getting the knowledge of your secretive practices out there, which you don't want. So what do you do with them?
Oh.
I don't think just straight up killing them is a very fun thing, but I think there should be something. But perhaps it's something we can think about over time, or I don't know, unless you have an idea now.
I think my first notion, I'm going to throw it out here to bounce off you, is...
Oh, let's do it. Bounce it.
An orchestra is meant to be of multiple people. I've already made the suggestion of a choir rite.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of anything, maybe, what if these are the people that turn existing magic into magical effects in some way by reimagining them? Do they become the teachers of the next generation?
Yeah, maybe they become the teachers, yeah. And, they would... Oh, see, now I've got another picture in my head. I'm thinking of a particularly mean teacher, someone who is very resentful that all this work that they've put into this, all this faith in the system and, wanting to do the right thing.
And love for music.
And now all that they can do is teach others to potentially suffer the same fate.
Yeah. And I think that would be a relatively common... I mean, bitterness seems like the natural culmination of that sort of effect. And you'd end up with these generations of music-loving kids being taught by bitter teachers to become conductors. It certainly adds more to that grim air that you were describing initially with the symphomortologists.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, that sounds good. I like that. There you go. Look at that. We've worded some wars. We ward some words. I've got one more thing.
Lovely.
So this is for the Vestari.
Ah, yes.
Okay. Sort of playing off your description there. So this is my contribution. The sentence spells are akin to a type of reality programming containing clauses and subclauses, dozens of conditional statements, as well as a framework describing the flow and pathways for that magic to take. But there is another mode a Vestari can utilize. This is a dangerous proposition, and very few can make it work. I refer, of course, to the path of the poet. There are those Vestari who can compress a great deal of meaning into very few words. Very often, the magical words are spoken as a type of short-form poetry. The secret to this way of casting lies in storage tomes. Upon their person, a practitioner will usually have a huge magical tome. This is, in a very real way, the mystic processing unit for the caster's magic. Vast amounts of information must be sequestered inside of such a book, defining almost every aspect of the possible spells and desired output in contrast to the outside world, the parameters of which such a poet must also magically define to the best of their ability. If such a spell goes wrong, the consequences can be devastating. Much of the magic drawn upon in such a way would simply lose direction and explode outwards, taking the unlucky practitioner with it, as well as whoever may have been standing next to them. As a practice, therefore, the path of the poet is seen as a dangerous one. It is a direction that only the very intelligent can take their magic, although if they were wise instead, they probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I like this. It sounds to me more like what you're describing is less than a magical processing unit and more like a series of macros.
Yeah, a series of macros. I just thought magical processing unit sounds better.
Fair enough. Rather than magical collection of macros. Yes, fair enough. So I'm totally on board for this.
Oh, cool.
I immediately start thinking of the mechanics behind it. And the idea that you've got to turn, the short, almost, as you say, poem-like sections and have them refer to this other part that's on you. It does make me want to, do you need a secondary stat to work with that? And wisdom was actually my first thought, which I thought was then funny because you're then like, if you're wise, you wouldn't do this. And I'm like, that's not...
Well, I don't know. I just thought it sounded good. But I think as a practice that's like potentially so dangerous, you do have to be... I have this idea that you would have to be some kind of prodigy to even consider it. Yeah. Because of the vast amounts that you would essentially have to like scribe magically into this book that defines not just the things you want to do, but how they would interact with the world around you. And for that, you need to understand the world around you.
Yes, in a pretty broad way. And on top of that, in a pretty broad way, you would also need to be able to be just capable of channeling sufficient magic to make it work at all.
Correct.
But it is the sort of thing that I see as being an unlockable ability when you reach a certain level.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's one of those ones where I see you could like work towards it.
No, I really do like that. When I was describing the Vestari style, and I was talking about how they memorize the magic, and then when they cast it, I'm not sure I made it as clear as I ought to have, that because they memorize it to speak it and gesture it really fast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Oh, okay. Oh, I understand now, yeah.
Okay, I didn't make that as clear as I should then. So
I think that's okay.
I'll play with the text then a little bit later. The idea that, the Vestari wizard would then sit there during their spell memorization time, essentially just repeating it over and over and over again as quickly as they can until they can then essentially recite, what might take 20 seconds within 10 or faster still.
Yeah, that didn't come through super clearly, but it does make a lot of sense now that I'm looking at the text. Yeah, it might require an extra explanatory sentence or so.
Cool. I will do that. I think it's a cool, as you're saying, like a cool image that the wizard is with a wand with a collection of wraith stone on the end, and it begins glowing as they pull upon the magic, and they start moving it very quickly through the gesture elements of these spells that they get it out.
I think that would be very cool.
Yeah.
Wait, did you just invent rap wizards?
No, I think that's the Brackenbards, but...
Oh, yeah, that's the Brackenbards, that's right, yeah.
So, yes, I did, but not...
So, yes, you did. Did you just invent rap wizards twice?
I might have.
That's very good.
I suppose it's a bit more like racehorse commentators, mages.
I would like there to be a type of wizard where they could cast using memes. It wiggles his fingers and says, "Skibbity toilet," and then something happens. I don't know what would happen. Something toilet related.
Project a hologram of somebody looking over their shoulder at another person in a red dress or something, and that's a distraction spell? I don't know.
Is that Skibbity toilet?
I don't know.
I thought Skibbity Toilet was the face coming out of the toilet, and it's a Skibbity Toilet.
I am not the person to ask about how things work in the land of memes and the modern era.
Well, you see, I have my finger on the pulse of youth culture, so I do work with them, and I have no hope for the future, sadly.
Oh, I've got a number of not quite anywhere near so young people in some of my tabletop groups, and they have often given me a great deal of hope for the future.
Terrible. You want to swap?
No?
Okay. Anyway, are you done with your bit?
I am done, yes.
And I'm done with my bit?
All right.
We finished. We did it. To seek out new life and jump to conclusions. To boldly go where no one should ever go.
All right.
We did an episode.
Well, what can we jump to a conclusion this time?
My God. How... Jesus Christ.
So
this is the hardest part for me.
What did you have a favourite element from today's session?
Favourite element? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Look, I really liked the Vaestas. Obviously, because I
did a whole
I
chunk
talked a lot. Yeah. I think that's an element that really always tickles my fancy. Anything to do with magic, having something to do with words or reciting things. That's a very similar notion, I think, to your notion of magic is life and art.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think, stories are magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for both of us, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of why we're here.
And I really also liked, hold on, I'm just going back to, I liked your secrets of magic. Just that idea of expanding it in this way. I like the story that you put in there about the blood mage that's still there. Is still there, maybe. Could have been. You know what? It might not actually be that actual blood mage.
Yeah.
Could have just been a guy that they made like that just to scare kids.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know if that's worse. Actually, I'm not sure which of these options is worse, but
well, I mean, if the story is true, then the poor bastard's been inside out and suffering for countless millennia.
And that's okay then. He's used to it then.
Sure, I mean, it's just Tuesday for him.
Yeah. Do you think that's true, like that idea of if you were in hell and if you were tortured every day, then after a couple of years, you just get used to it, so the devil would have to find a new torture for you? I don't know. I think it'd still be painful.
I mean, you and I have both worked in jobs for lengthy periods of time that we have not liked and have not gotten to like them anymore. In fact, many people like them less, so my thinking is no.
Oh Christ, that's wow. That's a great example. Thank you.
You're welcome. I live to serve.
How about you?
Me? Do you know it's not a single element of your various stories, although I have liked them. What I'm really liking about today's episode was the number of times you and I tied things back to earlier episodes.
Yeah, I think we're going to be doing that more and more because I feel like that's how the setting is kind of weaving together.
We're starting to reach a critical mass where they're no longer just disparate elements. They're starting to tie.
Yeah. And what episode is this? This is episode 5. No, episode 4. Sorry.
Yes.
This is episode 4. And so it's only been 4 episodes and things are already coming together.
Yeah, it's not super complex yet, but I can see it beginning to turn from individual threads into a pattern.
Layers within layers, you could say.
Indeed. All right then. Well,
all right.
That feels like a good moment to end this episode on.
That feels like a good moment for that. Thank you for listening, our dear listeners.
Yes.
And I should have a thing for this. We should have a thing for this.
We should probably have a thing for this, but we don't. So we'll just say thank you. Please do keep supporting us. I'd like to thank you all and hope you go to the supplementary material and check out this month's collection of bits and pieces we've popped out for you.
That's it. Fantastic. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right, we've done it. We've done it, my friend.
We have
created another piece of beautiful, delicious art.